Hello, everyone. I know last night we didn't have enough time to go over the assignment that you have this week, the goals and objectives in the 5-year plan. So I wanted to do just a very brief video to highlight some of the things that you need to take into consideration as you develop these. And so I'm going to go through the slide deck very quickly. I'm going to review the Arlington County goals and objective, and then I'm going to look at the sample that I gave you to look at as you put this together. Here's what I'd like you to take away. So, goals, definition, they're broad, long term statements of what the organization wants to achieve. Think about as you create the Grasslands PD goals and objectives, what is it that you want to be able to do from a big picture perspective? And then typically you're going to have to identify to some degree the time frame for which these are going to fall in. So you have a couple different things going on. You have the broad long-term statement that tells what you like to achieve, pretty much aspirational. And then you have to get down to the nuts and bolts of what you actually have to do and the time you have to do it. Objectives, on the other hand, define very specific measurable steps that break down into a goal or actionable component. So as you look at the slides here, you can see that what we talk about is it's concrete, time bound, quantifiable. In other words, they answer how organizations will achieve the goal. Again, it falls into that time frame, and you're going to have to figure out, is it a long-term objective or a short-term objective? Of course, as you go through this, we're asking you to think about it over the next 5 years. So you're going to have to think what you're going to do with those goals and objectives, or one, as you start up the agency, and two, as you do it over that 5-year plan. So you just see down here, I said, example, conduct a quarterly community forum with at least 200 residents. So what do they want to do? They want to conduct a quarterly forum. What are the measurable objective? That they have 200 residents attending. That's a pretty simplistic one, but you get the idea. It has an objective and it has a measure. So the key difference, a goal is the destination or the broad aspirational objective to what you want to achieve. An objective is the roadmap or specific measure, the steps to get there. So when writing that 5-year plan, goals should remain fairly stable. Objectives, however, should be reviewed annually or adjusted as they come. And we're not going to get into the real nitty gritty of goals and objective review or measures, but in reality, you would go much deeper in the process. So I threw up a couple examples just to get you started. Strengthen community trust and engagement. Okay, that's the broad aspirational thing, strengthen community trust. What are the objectives? Well, by the end of year 2, establish a community advisory board, host at least 4 community listening sessions, and achieve a 20% increase. So what they've done here is they've said, okay, our broad aspirational, value-driven, we want to have build community trust. That's pretty broad. But here's some of the objectives to get there. And they give you 3 objectives, and these have measures associated with them because you can go back and see, did we achieve the 20% increase or not? Did we bring in the 4 community groups or not? And if we did, what do we need to adjust? So let me see a second one. Enhance officer training and professional development. Okay, so the focus is internal, long-term. Your objectives require all officers to complete annual de-escalation training. Develop a leadership pipeline program. Increase continuing education participation by 30%. Again, very specific, very measurable. And the third example, improve operational effectiveness and crime reduction. Now let's think about that. I mean, I think for all of us, that's probably going to be something along the lines that everyone will have in their Grasslands PD. So when you think about that, outcomes are oriented and they're tied to core policing responsibility. The aspirational thing here is improve effectiveness and crime reduction. A very specific supporting objective. Remember, I'm expecting at least 3 objectives for each goal. In this one, I have deploy evidence-based hotspot policing in 3-year crime areas by year 1. So very specific, measurable, and it has a timeline. The second one, implement a new crime analysis system by year 3 to improve data-driven deployment. Okay, again, it's what are you going to do? what's the objective that you're trying to meet or the measure you're trying to meet well within the 3-year period, and then data-driven deployment decisions. So the key takeaways. Notice how goals stay broad, aspirational, and objectives make them concrete and measurable. This also makes objectives easier to evaluate annually. You can check progress and adjust without abandoning the goal, meaning that if you have something that is very clear, very concrete, very measurable, it's easier to assess it each year. A couple tips for your 5-year plan. Clarify the agency's mission and vision first, and then define your goals and objectives from them. Where do we want to be? Where do we want to be in 5 years? Set clear goals. The goals should be broad, aspirational, few in number, 3 to 5. Each goal should capture a major theme. Keep language simple and value driven so it resonates with both internally and externally. Develop SMART objectives. And when we talk about SMART objectives, it's simply this. They're specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, and they're relevant and time-bound. So layer them across the timelines, the first one being short-term objectives, first 1 to 2 years, quick wins, laying the foundation. So think about what you're going to need to get the agency up and running. Midterm, where do you want your programs to be in the next 3 to 5 years? And then, of course, you have long-term evaluation. So as we do the review of these, we take a look and say, were they specific? Were they measurable? And that's always figure out what your measures are going to be. Were they achievable? Don't make it pie in the sky, and don't over promise, making sure that you can achieve what you're putting forward, and are they relevant and time-bound? You want to use the phase approach. Year 1, planning baseline data collection, etc. Year 2, implementation, staff, buy-in, community partnerships. So think about it, you've got to build these things, right? So as you start that thinking about year 2, year 3, you've laid the foundation, you've brought in the initial officers. However, you might be thinking about, okay, am I going to be working towards a community engagement team? I may not be able to implement that year 1 because I have to meet core objectives with just meeting the beats. But I can start thinking about what that might look like, who I have to hire, who I have to bring in, what the plans might be. Just make sure that they align with that mission statement that you offered at the beginning, and they are focusing on building those objectives. Use metrics and benchmarks. Very important. Decide up front how progress will be measured. So I have an example: citizen satisfaction surveys, response time, officer training, etc. Visit annually and adjust as needed. Now, any of these more complex goals and objectives and/or strategic plans have at least an annual review, if not a quarterly review or more, to see, are we meeting the objective? And if not, should we continue to do it? Should we make modifications, etc.? At a minimum, review annually. Build an annual review and update cycle. What's working, what's not. Keep the 5-year plan as a living document. And for example, when I talk about that, your 5-year plan adjusts every year. So you have years 1 through 5, and then the next plan is it essentially is years 2 through 6, 3 through 7, etc. The plan keeps moving along. Oops. Okay. That is a really quick overview, but I just wanted to make sure I had an opportunity to talk to you a little bit about that. Let me go over and take a look at Arlington County. So again, you don't have to follow Arlington County. I just use this to give you some idea of what one might look like. So we had goals and objectives. Our overriding ones were transportation safety, crime prevention, community engagement, enhanced infrastructure. And then you'll see underneath that, there are objectives. I'm going to stick with transportation safety to make it easy. Enhanced motor vehicle and pedestrian bicycle safety. That was one of our objectives. 2, enhance DWI initiatives. 3, explore traffic engineering. And 4, replace and maintain transportation equipment. So those are our goals, the aspirational transportation safety. The measures or the objectives underneath. I'll go down a little bit further, and you have a copy of this document in your reading, so you can go and pull that out. I'm not going to read through all these, but here's what I wanted to get to. So goal 1, transportation safety, enhanced motor vehicle pedestrian. What's the strategy? Evaluate, update, and coordinate traffic safety campaigns. The purpose, enhance vehicle, bicycle safety, etc. And you'll see underneath this, there's an action plan to move it forward, and there are measures for that specific strategy. Second strategy, encourage and assign officers to conduct enforcement. And then we go down again. It's ongoing, it's active. What's the plan, and how do we measure it? So you come down, and I think that was goal 1. And then there's a number of strategies under goal 1. I'm not going to go through every one of these. You can look at the plan yourself, but it gives you an idea of when you start to put your goals and objectives together, what we're looking for. But in your case, it relates to your development of Grasslands PD. So it must be consistent and relevant with building an agency from the ground up. The last thing I had here was, oops, wrong one. I had an example that I posted for you as well. So here's a submission from somebody a while back. You can see they laid it out. They set out their goal. They laid out their objectives, and they provided their strategies for each one and their measures. The other thing that they did, and you can do it any way you want to do it. The other thing that they did, though, is I'm going to scroll down here to how they developed their 5-year plan. I thought it was interesting that they used, in their case, they used a color coding, but this is what they intended to meet in goal 1 in that first year, second year, third year. So you can see this. They're thinking about not only what was the goals and objectives, they thought about where the goal and objective fits within that 5-year plan. Okay. And I think that's it. But I just wanted you guys to have a quick primer. So as you start to develop this strategic plan, you have the information you need. I provided a guidance sheet for this as well. So I look forward to seeing what each of you come up with. And if you have questions, concerns, you can always contact me or Patrice.